This is Pre-Algebra Chapter 3.6, Solving Multi-Step Inequalities. In our last two lessons, we've learned to solve single-step inequalities using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Now we'll solve multi-step inequalities. Let's get started. Let's start working on this concept using a word problem. Your school's soccer team is trying to break the school record for goals scored in one season. Your team has already scored 88 goals this season. The record is 138. With only 10 games remaining in the season, how many goals on average does your team need to score per game to break the record? Let's start by writing a verbal model to help us understand what we need to do with the numbers we have. We need to take the goals scored this season, which I'm going to represent as G, and add it to the number of games we have left times the goals per game, which I'm just going to write as goals per game, GPG. And that needs to be greater than the school record. Okay, so now let's fill in some of these gaps with the information that we have. The goals that the team has scored so far this season equals 88, plus the number of games left, 10, times G, the number of goals we need to score, needs to be greater than 138. So let's begin by subtracting 88 from each side, giving us 10 goals is greater than 50. Then we need to divide each side by 10, which tells us that our team needs to score a minimum of 5 goals at each game in order to break the record. Now try working out a similar problem on your own. Let's suppose that the season goal record was 124 goals, that your team has already scored 52, and that there are 12 games remaining on the schedule. With this information, how many goals on average would your team need to score per game to break the record? Go ahead and solve this problem, and when you get back, we'll move on to the next idea. Let's solve this multi-step equality. X divided by negative 4 minus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 5. Our first step will be to add 6 to each side. X divided by negative 4 minus 6 plus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 5 plus 6. Our next step, x divided by negative 4 is greater than or equal to 1. Now we simplify. We need to multiply each side by negative 4, correct? Do you remember the rule for multiplying by a negative when we have an inequality? That's right. We have to reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. So negative 4 times x divided by negative 4 gives us x is less than or equal to negative 4. Let's try another. Negative 6 is greater than or equal to g divided by negative 5 minus 2. We begin by adding 2 to each side. To get negative 4 is greater than or equal to g divided by negative 5. Now we multiply each side by negative 5, giving us 20 is less than or equal to g. Remember, since we're multiplying by a negative number, we have to reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. Let's finish out this lesson by combining like terms in a multi-step equality. You plan to go ice skating often this winter. The skating rink charges $4 for admission. You can either rent ice skates at the skating rink for $5 per day, or you can buy your own pair for $45. How many times do you have to use the ice skates in order for the cost of buying them to be less than the total cost of renting them? In this problem, we have two options. We can buy skates or rent skates. We're going to let the variable v represent the number of visits to the skating rink. We're going to write a variable expression for the cost of each option. So in option 1, where we would buy skates, we would add the cost of the skates, $45, to the admission fee, $4, times the number of visits, v. In option 2, we would take the skate rental fee, $5, times the number of visits, v, and add it to the admission fee, $4, times the number of visits, v. We would simplify the equation for option 2 as 9v. To find the values for v, for which the cost of option 1 is less than the cost of option 2, we need to write and solve an inequality. So we will take the cost of option 1, which we calculate as 45 plus 4 times v, and say that we want that to be less than 9v. See how we did that? Now we solve the inequality following the steps that we already know. First, we need to get all of our v's on one side. So we're going to subtract 4v, from each side, giving us 45 is less than 5v. Now we simplify by dividing each side by 5, giving us v equals 9. So if we buy our skates, the cost would be less after 9 visits to the rink. So if you only plan to go 8 times, you probably just want to pay to rent your skates. But if you're going to go 9 times or more, then you would earn back the cost of purchasing the skates. That's all for Chapter 3.6. I'll see you tomorrow to continue practicing this concept of multi-step inequalities. See you then.